it's Leah at buttercreamparties.com. Today I want to share with you these fun fair or carnival inspired sugar cookies. We're going to start out with this corn dog cookie. I used a tip 44 on the white buttercream to create the stick, and now I'm going to use a Wilton tip number 12 to outline and fill in the corn dog. And I'm going to be taking my palette knife and smoothing it over. My frosting was really warm, and so it was struggling to get smooth today, so I did my no-fail method where I just put it in the freezer for about 10 minutes, took it out, and then re-smoothed it with the palette knife, and that gets you a really smooth finish. I do that anytime my buttercream is just not working with me for whatever reason. Our state fair is in 2 weeks, and so I was inspired to make some sugar cookies for that. I've been decorating cookies for I think 4 summers now, and I'm just now doing a carnival or state fair cookie, so I was excited to make these. Right now I'm just taking a Wilton number 4 with some yellow buttercream and piping on a squiggle for the mustard. All right, now we're going to do a snow cone sugar cookie. I filmed this cookie and then realized I didn't have the recording on, so that's why you can see some of the frosting still on there. I scraped away, but what I'm doing here is I'm using a tip number 4 to pipe on some purple, yellow, and pink buttercream. Of course, you can use whatever color you want. I am doing a kind of sunset background Ferris wheel cookie, and I'm using these colors, so I just used that to keep it simple. All right, and to create that shaved ice appearance, we're going to pour some clear sanding sugar onto a plate and just flip our cookie upside down and press it into the frosting. You don't want to press too hard because the frosting will just push out to the sides, but you want to be firm enough so that it does stick to it. And then if you have any wonky lines, the purple kind of got smushed, you can fix it up with that same palette knife that we just used to smooth the corn dog cookie. And it doesn't have to be perfect. I'm just fixing some of the sanding sugar where it was sitting and then clearing off the bottom part. And then I'm going to take a Wilton tip number 4 on the white icing, and I am going to outline and fill in the cup that the snow cone sits in. I don't often do the classic back and forth method for buttercream sugar cookies anymore because I smooth everything, so I had to kind of remind myself to go slow and actually focus on doing the back and forth lines. And then I'm just going over the edges to give it an outline. And that's it for the shaved ice or snow cone. Next, I'm going to do a soft pretzel. So I'm going to use the tip number 4 here to outline the cookie and then fill it in. You can use a larger tip size if you want it to go faster, like a tip 10 or 12. But the reason why I use a 4 is because I also don't want there to be too much frosting on the background of the cookie. The soft pretzel itself will use a tip number 12, and that adds quite a bit of frosting to the cookie. So this just keeps it so it's not overly frosted. And then again, since the frosting was really soft, I'm going to put these in the freezer for about 10 minutes and then smooth it out again. This is just how it is decorating buttercream sugar cookies during the summertime. Our house doesn't have air conditioning here in the Pacific Northwest, so I just do what I can when I can. You can also use a 9-inch angled flat spatula to smooth. I just feel like these palette knives work so well. I prefer it. They're smaller, so you can kind of fit them in to smaller spaces better. And it's also a thinner, it's like a really thin spatula, so it's just easier to work with for me. But of course, if a 9-inch angled flat spatula is what you work with best, then go ahead and do that. All right, so here I'm going to use that Wilton tip number 12 with the light brown frosting, and I'm going to create the soft pretzel look. So you're going to start in kind of the middle at the top, and you're going to go in a counterclockwise fashion and create almost like a really wide heart, and then put the little cross through it. So it kind of looks like an X in the middle. And then I'm just using that palette knife to flatten the top, and we want to have salt on our pretzel, of course, and so we're going to use that clear sanding sugar and just sprinkle some onto our cookies. And of course, you know, these videos, I'm just showing you guys how to decorate. You can use gloves if you're going to sell these. All right, so next up is that sunset background Ferris wheel cookie that I mentioned before. So I'm going to use a tip number 4. I'm going to put some purple frosting on there. I'm also going to do pink and yellow. Usually for tutorials on my blog posts, you might have noticed I say like use one tip number 4 and just put a coupler on everything so you don't have to have multiple tips. For this one, I would recommend just getting multiple tip number 4 sizes just to make decorating easier. And these are just going to be really abstract shapes. It's going to be, you know, how a sunset would look. Then you're going to take that palette knife again, or you can use your angled flat spatula, and we're going to start smearing these colors together. It's good if they do blend together, so you don't have to be super accurate, but you don't want to blend it too much to you're creating like a muddy color. So just keep an eye out on it. And don't worry about all the texture that is building up. For this one, I would recommend doing the freezer method regardless, because you're going to be building up a lot of texture mixing these colors together. So go ahead, put it in the freezer for 10 minutes, take it out, and then smooth it. The Ferris wheel is the only ride at the Carnival that I can somewhat tolerate. I cannot stand rides. Even when I was a kid, I didn't like the kiddie rides. But I can every once in a while get on a Ferris wheel. But it does need to be the bigger ones, because the bigger ones seem to go slower. I won't get on those small ones because they just look like they go too fast, and I don't like that feeling of moving up and down. It's just, if I, you know, want to be a part of the group and get on a ride with whoever I'm with, I will compromise with the Ferris wheel. Okay, so now for the most difficult part is drawing the Ferris wheel. I'm going to use a PME 1.5 tip on some dark gray frosting. It will dry black, and so you don't need to get it to a complete black. And what I've done so far is I have found the center of the cookie and placed a dot. And then I've drawn 2 angled lines going down towards the bottom. And then what I'm doing here is I'm creating the supports for the Ferris wheel. I find it best to draw that first. And here is where, if you want to use a projector, I would recommend pulling out the projector. Or you can also find a cookie cutter that is a circle that fits this size and kind of press into the buttercream so that you can have a perfect circle. But I'm just freehanding it today, and so you'll see that I can come in with that palette knife and kind of roll the buttercream to manipulate it. I really like that about buttercream frosting as opposed to using like royal icing, like a flooding, because I can come in and kind of fix it up. Again, I'm not looking for perfection here, but if you want them to be perfect circles, either use a circle cookie cutter and imprint it and kind of trace over that, or pull out your projector. My favorite projector that I have is the Acaso Pico projector. I'll go ahead and I'll link it below. I also have a blog post that goes all about it and how to use it for cookies and how I set it up, and all of that. Next, I'm going to draw in the spokes for the Ferris wheel. You want to keep it simple and not do too many of them, because the more spokes that you draw, the more complicated the design is going to be, of course, but also the more seats you are going to have to draw to fill in where the spokes are. So I'm just going to come in and I'm going to do a few of them. Be careful when you're drawing it here. It can get kind of confusing to find where that line is supposed to go by those support beams. And then go ahead and finish off those support beams. I'm just going to be adding in kind of a thicker bar towards the edges. It helps distinguish it from like the spokes, and you know what I was just talking about, how the lines can get kind of confusing. So just going to do some small zigzags and fill that in quick and easy, and you'll see how big of a difference that makes in the design. All right, so we're going to draw in an inner circle. Again, it does not need to be perfect. I'm just going to fix one of these lines here at the bottom, again using that palette knife and just rolling the buttercream. But otherwise, I think that it looks just fine. All right, and the last thing that this Ferris wheel needs are some seats. So you're just going to want to make sure that you draw them somewhat accurately, in the sense that the ones on the bottom will be below the Ferris wheel, the ones on the side directly to the side, and then the ones at the top need to sit kind of angled, or the one at the very top below it. And then I'm just going to fill in the seats. All right, and of course we need to have some cotton candy. I don't have a cotton candy cookie cutter, and so I'm just using a bundle of grapes. So I have my tip number 4 on my white frosting to create the stick, and then the cotton candy part is super fast to tip number 12 on my pink frosting. I'm going to start at the bottom and just kind of swirl my way up towards the top. Super easy. And the last one of this is probably the most complicated design, but it's really not that difficult. Of course, you could always use a projector if you feel like your drawing skills aren't up to par. I feel like you really don't have to draw that well to decorate cookies, especially when you have them as a set, because these swings, when they're sitting in this kind of state fair carnival theme, you're going to know what they are. So don't thinking about it too much, but yeah, here I am using the tip number 4, outlining and filling in the square cookies. You can probably find a swing on Etsy maybe, or get them custom made, but the square is just fine. So I'm going to go ahead and smooth it out. I'm going to use that freezer method trick for 10 minutes. finish smoothing it. And that's going to create a really nice base for our carousel swings. Is that what they're really called? I'm not sure, but I would never get on the swings. That looks like one of the worst rides to me. I can barely sit on a swing without getting vertigo. So I would never go on with these, but I think that they look really pretty. And so I wanted to create a cookie like that. I'm just moving this because sometimes when you bake squares, whenever you pick it up from like after you roll out the cookie and then you put it down onto the cookie mat, it gets kind of warped and then it bakes like that. So I'm just trying to find which way is the best way to orient it. So this is a tip number 4 on my purple icing. Right now I'm just creating the basic shape of the carousel swings. So I've set it up kind of where there's a tent at the top and then the middle pole and then the base support. So you can do quite a bit of the design in the purple and that makes it easy. And then I'm going to switch over to the white frosting again with the tip number 4, and I'm going to fill in the rest of the tent, and I'm going to create kind of some, I don't know what you would call that, just some angled lines on the middle, but you know when they spin it looks really pretty, so that's what I was going for there. Now I'm using the yellow buttercream with the tip number 4 just to go in and pipe what I would call lights, but maybe they're just a colorful design. And then this is the part that we're going to start adding in the seats. So back to that black buttercream, well, dark gray, with the PME 1.5 tip, and I'm going to draw 6 lines along the top as a guide, and then 6 lines below. These lines at the bottom are going to be the top of the swing seats. So what we're going to do next is at the top line, find the middle, and then draw a line to the outer edges. So we're going to create kind of some triangles here. And those are going to be the swing ropes. And then for my seat color, I'm going to use the pink frosting. So I have a tip number 4 on that again, and I'm just going to pipe a really small line underneath the top of the seat. And then to complete the look, I am going to use that PME 1.5 tip and outline everything except for the yellow lights. Of course, you could outline the yellow lights, but then it risks getting all jumbled up. And I think that it looks fine without the yellow lights being outlined. So yeah, this is the carnival or fair themed set that I came up with. I would love to know in the comments below what other themes you would like me to come up with tutorials for. I'm going to also have the blog post with the step-by-step photo tutorial and all of the recipes linked below. So thanks so much for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe and turn on the notification bell. You all have been so supportive of me. Thank you so much.